The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, thank you once again for joining us here on Friday, October 23rd. Of course, we hope that everyone is doing well, being healthy and safe as we navigate through just an incredible year on so many fronts. We have a number of very important topics today. We're very excited to have our speakers today. We have Chief Commercial Officer Jeff Price from the PGA of America, the Chief Membership Officer, Mr. John Easterbrook, and the executive team from Supreme Golf, Jonathan Ride, Austin Ride, Ryan Avers, and Jay Warnock that we'll introduce again later on this morning. So we're very excited to learn more about the PGA Tee Time Marketplace and our partnership with Supreme Golf. You know, of course, our thanks to our Southern California team, Craig Kessler and Kevin Fitzgerald, keeping us up to date on what's happening in the state, and of course, our news from Nevada as well. And, you know, as an industry now, we turn our attention to 2021. We've been riding a wave, and certainly the information from the National Golf Foundation this morning indicated that year-over play is up 26%, and there's at least a 2% increase in every state in the country in the game of golf. And as we plan for next year, moving back to some extent, we're very excited about getting together again in groups that are getting a little bit larger. How can we sustain and retain and keep the wave going? So we're on the road for those discussions and grateful for everybody's input and opportunities and sharing practices. To our team in Southern California again, our presidents, Tony Latendre, and our CEO, Tom Addis, Chief Operating Officer, Nikki Gatch, our production team, Bryce Seaver and Caitlin Doyle and Tyler Miller for getting us on the air. And I'd like to start, because we have a full schedule this morning, with some words from our Northern California PGA President, Didi Moriarty. Didi?
No, thanks, Len. Just wanted to say hello to everybody. It's really great to see some of our counties moving into the yellow zone, which I think is a great step in a good direction. And really, Len was going to echo just the reports on golf, just the increase in the amount of play, and really the year the manufacturers for golf equipment have had. So hopefully with people buying all this golf equipment, it'll give them a good reason not to quit after the pandemic's over. So I think that's a really good sign. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity to say hello, and I'll just turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Didi. And as we've said so many times, thanks to everyone at the facilities, the operators and such, because we made an agreement with the health officers and we made an agreement with our legislators on our behavior. And those are the things that are keeping us open and helping us thrive. So again, to everyone out there at the facilities, thank you for all that you've done to make it happen. And for those facilities that were challenged with the fires, I've talked to some here in Northern California. You know, we're staying close and finding solutions and ways to keep it going and keep those members engaged, perhaps through some reciprocal arrangements and such. But we're all in this together and very grateful for that. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Southern California PGA, Mr. Tom Addis. Tom?
Yeah, thanks, Len, and good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. We've had some communication problems this morning. But another good day, and I'm going to follow up a little bit with what Len mentioned regarding the rounds of play across the country, not only in California, but across the country. And I think what's really notable is we've reached a certain plateau, if you will, that's probably overused a little bit, that the percentage of rounds is higher annually, even though we started off with very, very poor, whether it was weather and then, of course, the pandemic in March, April, and May. But in that regard, we've recovered overall, at least in the rounds of golf, rounds of play. And barring another severe outbreak, which we're risking right now, we know that that's happening across the country. And hopefully golf, as Len alluded to, we've been able to maintain the proper practice and maintain our responsibility to do the right thing with the protocols and following those protocols. And and we need to continue to do what we can to support the protocols, whether they're statewide or local agencies, wherever they may be, to help keep us on the course. So thanks to everybody for maintaining that and continuing with that as we go forward, and hopefully through the fall, be able to maintain the activity that we have. With that, I'd now like to introduce the Southern California PGA President, Mr. Tony Latendre.
Well, thanks, Tom, and thanks, Len, and everybody. Dee Dee, always nice to hear you as well. And just, I think you guys summed it up the best. So I think my message this morning will just kind of be a positive message to just kind of stay strong and keep on keeping on, because you know, we keep hearing it from Len and from Tom and all of our leaders around that you know, it's just a difficult time, and we need to do our best to keep golf in the forefront. And golf numbers are great and they're up, which is good for all of us. But you know, we just need to stay focused on what we're trying to do, and provide a good example for not only other industries in our states and in our counties, but for our fellow professionals, just to make sure that they're doing the right thing to stay open through this time. So it's very important, and we keep hearing it from Len and Tom. It's like a broken record, but it's very important that we keep that. So thanks for that messaging, you guys, and we appreciate all that you're doing for all of us on behalf of all of our section members and for all of our section members. So thank you, and just appreciate the opportunity to be with everybody this morning. I apologize for missing the last couple due to some scheduling conflicts, but it's great to be back here to see everybody, and looking forward to what's new and what's going to come down the pipeline.
Yeah, thanks, Tony, and thanks to Dee Dee and Jeff and John and Jonathan and the Supreme Golf staff for being here this morning and participating, of course, Craig and Nikki and Bryce and Caitlin and Tyler. And I'm going to leave with just one more little bit of preaching. And again, I bring this up, and I hope you don't take offense to this, but it's so important. In going through the socials this morning, two different posts, there was a shot of some golfers around a table together and arm in arm, raising their glasses and laughing and celebrating, which is completely opposite of where we want to be. And again, I know that's preaching, but it's so important that we manage those kinds of activities. And then a post about a large golf clinic and on a huge putting green, and no participant was distancing properly. No participant was wearing face coverings. And those are the kinds of things that are, especially if we tighten up again, that the agency health departments are going to look at and put us at risk in keeping our feet on the golf course. So I just urge you to practice properly and be responsible again out there with your distancing, with your face covering, with your sanitation. And I appreciate being able to say that. And Len, thanks.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Tony. Tom, you know, we need to say that. That's part of our responsibility. And again, that's what's keeping us open and what's keeping us thriving. So thank you so much for reminding us of those things. So I'd like to start now with our Chief Membership Officer, Mr. John Easterbrook. John, we've got a big week coming up next week, certainly the PGA of America annual meeting, which will be virtual. We have a secretary election, so I'm sure you'll address that, and the myriad of other activities that are happening. So ladies and gentlemen, Chief Membership Officer, Mr. John Easterbrook.
I'll go quickly, and we want to get to Jeff and the Supreme team on the call about that really cool announcement that we're doing. But Dee Dee and Tony and Tom and Len, all the comments on the Back to Golf, it just, like you said, it is our responsibility. Everybody out there, please be diligent. You know, the news out of Ireland where they shut golf completely down, you know, has hit the East Coast more than the West Coast of the U.S. But, you know, Jeff and I have been kind of back on the phone a little bit. And we want to make sure we stay out ahead of it. And all the stories that you all, you know, Tom, I'm glad you're being preachy because they can shut us down. This second wave is going to come. There's no question in my mind. It's already coming. The social distancing definition and contact tracing definitions are changing. New wording and language around the definition of that came out yesterday. So, just be smart, be diligent, work with your local health people, continue to drive the point home that, we are being responsible, our sport's being responsible. I think we're going to be just about, we're going to be much more educated, but we may have the same restrictions come this spring that we had last spring. That's what, in my mind, that's what we need to be prepared for. So, anyway, we can't say that enough in the golf business. We have to stay open. The numbers are great. And for all you operators on the call, make sure you're staying connected to the new players. We want to keep them in the game. This is if there's one thing, that is positive that came out of this pandemic, it is the numbers in golf, and our sport has grown. But we as operators, we need to stay connected. So, the annual meeting is next week, as Len said. We have a board meeting on Tuesday. We have rehearsals on Wednesday. And then we have roughly, it's actually timed out right now at 3 hours and 36 minutes of a virtual annual meeting on Thursday. You will be able to get on it on pga.org. We encourage you to get on, participate. We're posting a number of things that won't be live this year. Obviously, the election of the secretary will be done virtually. We've actually been doing run-throughs of that. We have a kind of a final run-through this afternoon, testing our software, and it seems to be working fine. Educating all of the voting delegates on how to make sure that they cast their vote, and basically having worst case scenarios developed so that we can make sure that we do indeed have a successful election next week. So we're looking forward to that. The one thing that has come up in a couple of these fall meetings, and I don't know if it's coming up in this meeting at all, but just the Ryder Cup, with the Ryder Cup being moved real quickly, there were some questions on tickets. So if you all get asked, or the existing tickets for the Ryder Cup, if you had a ticket and you want to go next year, that ticket is valid. And then if you don't want to go, or the person asks you about the tickets, they can get the refund. So we did the best that we could with everything, to make sure that the people who secured entry into the Ryder Cup receive that. And then secondarily, if you just can't go next year, that you do indeed get your money back. Quickly on PGA Frisco, 34 of 36 of the holes are done. We would have probably had them all done had we not had some rains this spring, and 9 and 18 on the golf course that the PGA Championship will be played on has a large creek going through it. So there's about 50 yards of work on each side of that creek that needs to be completed in the spring. There are holes, frankly, that you could play now. It's grassed, it's beautiful, and it's going to be magnificent. So the still slated to open in August of 2022. So next year we get a full grow in. It's, which is a luxury that a lot of places don't have. It's going to be, it really is going to be amazing. So the West Golf Course is done, completed. They're handing it over this week, actually, to the operators, which is us, our team. So short course and the practice facility mass grading started this past week. Our headquarters building is coming out of the ground now, and we will be open and ready for business anticipated of December of next year. So 13 months from now. You all saw the member survey coming out. I ask you to fill it out. It is a bit long, but it's meaningful information, and it's information that we use. So, please make sure that you have an opportunity to sit down and get that filled out. You also saw the announcement on the industry show We're going to do that virtually. It just, with Reed, basically talking to the vendors and talking to past attendees, it was basically less than 25% of the vendors and the attendees that said that they would attend the show if we had it. So really, not much to there to actually support a show for January of next year. The last thing I want to comment on is just some education stats. Again, encourage your team members, your staff. The virtual education's working. We've had 851 participants in the staff or in the virtual education, and the statistics are amazing. It's actually been more positive than the instructor-led education. 72% of the students have said that they've gained new knowledge. That opposed to an education benchmark of 46%, so nearly double. And 77% said that the knowledge is critical to their job. So we also have a 78% positive NPS on the virtual education. So it's real, it's working, and the people that are going through it are seeing tremendous value in it. So if there's time to go through the education, please encourage your staff to do so. Last, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. He may give a little bit of background on PGA.com and the coach profile, but I want to get to Supreme. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Price and Jonathan Ride and his team. As a PGA member who operated golf courses for most of my career, this is something that we've been asking for, certainly in the daily fee side of things. Excited about this plan and look forward to working with everybody to get this rolling. So thanks for Jonathan and his team to be on. And Jeff, you can take it from here.
Thank you, John, and good morning, everyone. We're really excited to introduce you to Jonathan Ride, his team, and all the folks at Supreme Golf. As I think many of you know, the PGA of America participated, John Easterbrook and I, as a part of the USA Tee Time Coalition with the NGCOA, really working on best practices, yield management, education and development, and ultimately making sure, or trying to make sure that it was a competitive marketplace that was good, not just for consumers, but for golf courses, PGA professionals, and employers. And over the course of that time, the NGCOA issued guidelines in terms of performance that talked about barter and data sharing and just a broad set of principles that were in the best interest of all parties. And as we have evolved and continue to look at the space, bringing our PGA.com rights back into house, we recognized that we had an opportunity, we thought, to do more. And we really looked at a broad group of potential partners that we could align with in the tee time space. And ultimately, Jonathan and Supreme represented everything that we had tried to work with the NGCOA on in terms of living up to those guidelines, making sure that the principles that needed to be employed and brought to the marketplace were going to be brought by the partner that we would engage in, and most importantly, that we could create an opportunity for PGA professionals to bring the best available commission structure to an employer, so that whether you were operating at a single facility or a multi-course operator where PGA professionals are employed, the association was providing an umbrella upon which there's a chance and an opportunity to engage fairly and objectively in the marketplace and get the best rate available. And so from that perspective, along with Jonathan and the team's desire to really collaborate with all 41 of our sections to meet the individual goals that our sections have, and to be great partners, not just to PGA from a national perspective, but to our sections. We announced the partnership a few weeks ago, and Jonathan and his team are in the marketplace now, aligning courses for the PGA Tee Time Marketplace, which will launch on PGA.com. Really, as we think about early quarter of the first quarter of 2021. And so at this point, I'll turn it over to Jonathan to kind of walk you all through the opportunity. And then at the end, I'll come back and just give a quick update on what's happening from a PGA coaching perspective and the engagement that we're seeing for folks in that area. But Jonathan, turn it over to you and your team. Jonathan, I think we're having some audio difficulties.
What about now? Is that better?
You are in. Perfect.
Good. All right. Sorry about that. We're a technology company, as you can see. So thank you, Jeff, and thank you, John, and thank you, Todd, and thank you for everyone, for having us today. We really appreciate it. And one thing I say often, and you'll hear again, we're humbled to be a part of such an esteemed organization as the PGA of America. And working with the PGA and Jeff and John and their team over the last year or so, a couple of years, has been a tremendous experience. And it exactly shows us exactly the values that are important. We are an industry first company. We are pro-industry, and we truly believe in the value of a partnership. And working with the PGA, being a partner and a true partner was very important to PGA National and Jeff and his staff. So as I walk you through a little bit of what this Tee Time site will do, I also want to talk about the support and the partnerships we want to have with the sections and the partnerships we want to have with the member courses and the member facilities to support this new offering. As Jeff was saying, and John, this new site will be called PGA Tee Times, and it'll be available at PGA.com, and it'll be available on Supreme Golf as well. And what it is another option. It's another option for golf courses that are looking to sell more tee times or sell additional tee times under a no trade model. What we have key to us was the golf course being in control. You control the pricing, you control your inventory, you receive your data, and then you should, for the courses, the golfers that play your course, you should receive that data, and we're going to deliver it to you. So with the technology that we have and the way we've put together PGA Tee Times, you don't even have to change your tee sheet or your point of sale company to join the site. We will connect, if we don't already, to your tee sheet. We connect to 17, and we're going back through and talking to all these tee sheet providers about joining the PGA Tee Times, joining PGA Tee Times, and it's been, you can imagine the support for it. If there is a tee sheet that you have that doesn't connect to us, let us know, and we will talk to them directly and see if we, and because everybody is welcome, every golf course is welcome in America, and every tee sheet. And to support that, we've waived any fees for any tee sheet that's not connected to connect directly to us, and we'll even do the development work. So we've put that out there, and that was a big commitment that we had made to get this done. But as we said, this is a commission-based marketplace. For PGA member facilities, the commission is 10%. For non-PGA, the commission is 15%. But I think the biggest part of this, and when this was brought up to us, we were actually pleased because we saw the value of the partnership, and that is not just best pricing that the PGA member facilities receive on PGA Tee Times. And it was important to the PGA National that happens through all of our products. We've never done that before, but that's something we've committed to as part of this partnership. So if there was a tee sheet, if it was a point of sale, if it's subscription-based membership, if it's revenue management, if MCOs want to contact or courses, everything is best available pricing, period, at Supreme Golf from this point forward for PGA member facilities. When it comes to PGA Tee Times, we also provide a choice because we listen to you. And if you have any questions at all, it doesn't even have to do with this, ask us, because we'll at least give you our thoughts because we value your thoughts in return. And one thing we see a lot of is courses will have a different way they want to accept money. So on the site, golfers will be able to prepay for a tee time if that's what you want. So the golfer can prepay it, and we've seen where it reduces no-shows. The money goes into your account 2 days automatically after play date. So that's one option. The second is the golfer pays at the course. Again, your choice. If that's what you prefer at your facility, that's what's going to happen on this site. And the third choice that we offer is flex pay. And that was something we developed based on course input. A lot of courses felt they may lose business if they demanded people pay up front, so they wanted to give a choice. And we've all done that on Hertz or Avis or a hotel where it says pay at the facility and it's $1, pay, you know, today and it's 99 cents or whatever it is. So we can even do things like that. But again, the payment choice is your choice. And when we work with you, we'll discuss and we'll ask you how you want to do that. And that's how we will do it. The golfers access PGA tee times through the PGA.com, through Supreme Golf, and through our respective mobile apps, as well as they come online. So there's a lot of the ways they can access the tee time marketplace. One question we get asked in one of the section calls we were talking to is this a heavy lift? Is this, you know, I'm moving into season, I'm moving out of season, my pro shop is busier than ever. You know, I don't have a lot of time to put in a whole new system. Well, the great thing is it's not a heavy lift at all. If your tee sheet is already on, it's a connection. And because you control it, it's your tee sheet in your pro shop on your website at the prices you want come automatically on. If you want to talk about different product strategies of how to maybe have different channels, that's a different story. But this is a very light lift. It's a connection. You sign a contract. They're very small. It's really just a listing agreement. So we can have your authority to list your tee times online. And then it's a very easy lift. And then you're up and running. As to the contacts, next to me is Jay Warnock. Jay Warnock is handling the sales effort for all of this. Going forward for PGA tee times. Jay's email address is jay@supremegolf.com. And one thing I always like to do is give my own email address, and if you want my cell phone number, because it's important that you get to the right person and you get what you want. My email is jride@supremegolf.com. And I'm the CEO and co-founder. Ryan here is my COO, and that's Ryan at Supreme Golf. So any questions you have, I assure you, this three in Austin, we can answer these questions for you. And then lastly, on the support, one thing that's very important to the PGA and very important to us is supporting the section, supporting the member facilities. So what we're doing is we are allowing when a consumer comes to a section website, if they go to PGA tee times, we'll track those consumers and we will pay you a portion of the booking in perpetuity. So you can get paid and generate from, you know, those valuable customers that you have that play your events, that are in your section, etc. And then on the other side is for any courses in your section, and I love that this was put together through this process, is we're going to, you know, donate or pay a fee, however you want to call it, for every golf course that joins in your section, because we know the sections do a valuable job, and we want to make sure that we're supporting them as your partner, because we are your partner. And then anything else, if you have passbooks, things like that, we're even discussing ways of, you know, a partnership where we can sell those on the PGA tee times as well, PGA tee time side as well going forward. So in a nutshell, you know, to put it together of what we're doing here, the PGA tee time site is a new booking site. It's an option for you. It's a commission-based, non-trade site. We're going to support the course. We're going to support the section, and you get full choice and control. So thank you, Jeff, and thank you for having us today. But that's a brief overview. And if you go to teetimes.pga.com, you can submit your request for additional information. And then there's a comment section. If there's anything specific, please enter it, and I assure you we will get back to you quickly.
Jonathan, thank you. Tom and Len, happy to open it to questions that any PGA professionals have on the call, or obviously if there are follow-up calls, Jonathan and his team are 100% available and ready to answer any and all questions that would come. But if there are any questions that we received, happy to answer those now.
Jeff, thank you. Jonathan, thank you. I do not see any. Nikki, Bryce, are there some that I might not be seeing?
I don't see any. Jeff, just a question from a section standpoint. Will there be collateral coming in the future for the sections to help promote this to our members?
Absolutely. We're actually working with Jonathan and his team on those collateral materials. Supreme team, what's your sense of timing on those materials?
We believe we'll have those finished first part of next week. We're just getting final sign off. And one thing we put together is a one-pager overview of the product so you can see it in writing. And then we have quite a few pages of talking to members and PGA professionals and sections of frequently asked questions, and those will be attached as well.
Terrific. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Great. And then just real quick, I did want to give an update in terms of PGA.com and the launch of the coach profiles. We have nearly 750 PGA professionals who are ADM certified that have completed their profiles. And the good news is that we have produced almost twice as many referrals as there are coaches to date. And another thing that we're seeing is for those that have finished the profile, a much higher performance on Google search for their own offering, whether it's a facility offering or an individual professional, that when someone is searching on Google for coaching, that is something that's coming to the top of the list and beating things like Thumbtack that historically have had a higher position. And so, again, I know we've done a previous session around the coaching space and around PGA.coach and ultimately ADM training, but the benefit of being highlighted and featured on PGA.com is certainly something that we're seeing, and we're going to continue to ramp up the promotion of PGA coaches that have profiles on PGA.com. Another part, of the relationship with Supreme is they'll be helping us to promote coaches, as we move forward in the partnership. So again, I think overall we're very excited about the path that PGA.com is taking, putting the PGA professional at the center of the content, at the center of the activity and the initiatives that we're undertaking, and certainly through Tee Times, creating optionality and choice in a marketplace that is ultimately driven and controlled from a price perspective by the individual operator and facility, and giving the PGA professional the opportunity to bring to their employer the best rate available. So hopefully you're seeing the evolution of that digital business. That is one that we very much want to make sure is connecting PGA professionals with consumers and ultimately their facilities in a way that's enhancing the nature of the relationship you have with employers. So again, happy to answer any questions that exist, but I think progress significantly being made, and we very much look forward to the launch of the Tee Time Marketplace in early 2021.
Thank you,
Jeff,
Jeff.
we did have a couple questions come in for the Supreme Golf team.
Terrific.
One, will Supreme Golf ultimately be a publicly traded company?
Oh, wow. Maybe. No plans for that at the current time. We're a private company. We have a great organization, so we don't have any plans to be public at this point.
Okay. And then also, how will this work with other online tee times, for example, Golf Now?
Yeah, this is another option. So this will be a separate site. And I think what's really important, and probably my favorite piece that came out of, and it's hard to say that, of our negotiations and our discussions, is this is an independent marketplace. It's not dependent on Golf Now or Tee Off, etc. They have their own sites and they do very well, of course. But this is an independent site, so every single course that connects, or MCO that connects their golf courses, actually signs a listing approval. So we can list their course because you control the tee time and the pricing directly from your tee sheet. So Golf Now obviously will live on, but this site, it won't have trade on it. It won't have Golf Now tee times or tee off. These tee times come directly from your golf course that you control, so directly from your tee sheet.
Yeah, and just to amplify what Jonathan said, if a facility has a great relationship with Golf Now, that relationship can continue. There's no parameters that we would put to try and control that at the grassroots level. I think it's really ultimately up to each facility, but we create it as an option. And if it's an additional option to something you have, that's terrific. If you're not on the other marketplaces and are looking for a broader distribution opportunity, that is the pathway that we're offering as well. And so, as Jonathan said, this whole framework of the relationship is to create choice, to give you control of pricing, and ultimately make sure that the data and information that is being generated and these new leads that are being generated ultimately become valuable to the facility and the PGA professional to continue to build those relationships.
Exactly.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you. Jeff, thank you. Jonathan Len Dumas. And so I've counted, I think, five levels of access, right, when we are up and running with Supreme. And thank you for everything that you guys have done. And those levels, as if I've noted correctly, PGA.com, SupremeGolf.com, the apps you mentioned, and then of course our section websites and the facilities themselves. Does that sound about right? Which is tremendous.
Yeah, I think you did a great job there. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you all, and again, Jeff, for all the work. So Jonathan Ride, the CEO of Supreme Golf, Austin Ride, Vice President of Supreme Golf, Ryan Avers, the Chief Operating Officer of Supreme, and Jay Warnock, Vice President of Business Development. Thank you for all the time today, but previously last week that you've given to us as our sections and as our industry. And we're very excited for the partnership, and we look forward to 2021 for a lot of reasons, but certainly our relationship with Supreme Golf is one of those.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much, Len and Tom and Dee Dee and Tony for enabling the conversation. And again, if there are further questions or anything, please reach out to Jonathan and his team, or reach out to myself if there's anything that needs further clarification. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay, on to our Director of Government Affairs and the one and only Mr. Craig Kessler. Craig? Yeah.
Well, thank you, Len. Good morning, Len, Tom, both sections, new friends from Supreme Golf. Very interesting presentation. Gonna deal with three things today and be I said I'm going to be uncharacteristically brief. Let's see if I can keep my promise. Some state issues, and for a change, I almost never do this, but there's a federal issue. And then I'm going to close with just a brief remark about another aspect of those 26% increase in numbers that the NGF is reporting, and that here in California is roughly 26% as well. So on to some state issues. I think everyone understands that the 2020 legislative session is over, and I trust, because we have spoken about it on these telecasts, or excuse me, webinars, I guess they are, and a lot of written information has come out about our sort of unmerited fortune a little bit in the form of Assembly Bill 2257, in which a substantial amount of our 2020 legislative agenda regarding independent contracting for PGA professionals, youth sports coaches, and something that really surprised us, caddies through a third-party referral system. We received those things, a rather substantial amount of relief for the PGA professionals, not quite 100%, but pretty close. And so, again, in a year in which the legislature was out of session more than it was in session, it's rather shocking that we did better in that under that circumstance than we've done in some previous legislative years. Whether that means we do better when we don't have as much access, or the second, I think it means that maybe the years and years in which we've been working with the lobbyist in Sacramento and the California Alliance for Golf has been maturing. We're getting a little bit better and better at that. And speaking of it, the California Alliance for Golf Board of Directors meets November 10th to sort of review what happened in 2020 and to establish a 2021 legislative agenda. There's still one little item in that 12-pronged test that is the business to business for professional services exception that serves PGA professionals as independent contractors that I know we're going to tackle. Beyond that, I'm not quite so sure. That will be after the November 3rd election, so that may affect some of those discussions. As Dee Dee Moriarty pointed out at the beginning of this session, The numbers in California are looking very, very good with respect to COVID-19. They're looking better in Northern California than they are in Southern California, where a lot of counties, Bay Area counties included, are moving into the yellow tier. Unfortunately, I'm speaking to you from the state's largest county, Los Angeles, which is still mired in the purple tier and may be there for a while. Whether that's a testament to our lesser capacity to hew to social distancing standards, or more probably the fact that with 10.2 million persons, this is the largest municipal government in the United States, largest municipality. So it's tough to manage that. So that explains a little bit why some of the restrictions, not restrictions on playing golf, we've been doing that for many, many months in all 58 counties, but some of the restrictions on some of the offerings at golf courses are still a little bit greater in Los Angeles County. I'm not going to go into what those are. Those listening from Los Angeles County understand them. I think those of you who subscribe to SCGA Governmental Affairs updates got an update this week that expressed a little bit of, you could see the frustration oozing out between the lines at some of this, which doesn't make much sense. But as I always caution everyone, in the large scheme of things, whether you can hit a practice putt in the middle of a pandemic just seems to pale seems to be somewhat less significant than whether schools can open, whether Disneyland can open, and all those kinds of things. So I hope everyone retains patience on that line. I know we're all looking to the November 3rd election for a lot of reasons, and a lot of us for different reasons. But for golf specific items, obviously Proposition 15, and we've given a lot of play to that, and both the California Alliance for Golf and the Southern California Golf Association, including the two sections, have put out a huge volume of information about what the impact of Prop 15's passage would be very specifically on the California golf community. And the impact is different depending upon the ownership status of the golf course. And we've tried to be scrupulous in making sure that everyone in the industry understands the distinctions. Because the impact, and for those who need a little bit of background, this would be the first major reform to the Prop 13 property tax paradigm in this state since Prop 13 was passed 42 years ago, and it would continue Prop 13 fully intact for all residential properties, but all others would have to be reassessed for the purposes of property taxes at least once every 3 years. The aim is commercial and industrial property, much of which hasn't been reassessed in 42 years. The aim is not the golf community, and keep in mind that almost all the golf courses in the state of California, at least the golf course part of them, which is a substantial amount of the property, are zoned open space, in some cases agricultural, and the reason for that is Article 13, Section 10 of the California Constitution, which can only be amended through a subsequent vote of the people. So that change is going to slip through the legislature in a piece of gut and amend while we're not paying attention. So you can rest content on that. I can tell you that the most recent polling kind of hews to the gut feeling I've been sharing with you about the fate of Prop 15. It's going to be close. It's polling at 49% approval over this week, which means my gut feeling that it'll fall short at about 47% or 48% and fail is probably in line. However, 49% is certainly close enough to pass. Keep in mind that with the incumbent for an initiative is always the no vote. Those who remain undecided, even after all the attention that's gone into the campaign, it's very easy to stick with the status quo, either by not voting or voting no. So initiatives tend to slide in terms of their yes percentage as the polling goes forward. Again, and I think on this particular initiative, Prop 15, I believe both sides, both pro and con, have run extremely good campaigns. And as I predicted at the dawn, the campaign on the con is all about a flaw that's clearly in Prop 15. And that is that the proponents, the drafters, didn't seem to understand the triple net lease in the commercial, in the small business sector, and somehow thought they were protecting small businesses, and it turns out they weren't. And of course, anyone who flips on a television will see that point highlighted. So what that means, if it passes, obviously those consequences we've shared with you will come to pass. If it fails, keep in mind it will fail not by much. And the proponents will come back, and they'll keep coming back. Next time they come back, they'll fix their little triple net lease problem. And then we will be faced again, whether it's 2022 or 2024, again, with facing this particular issue. This is on the docket for some time to come. With respect to Prop 22, which is the app gig-based industries attempt to carve their own particular exemption into AB5 just for themselves and nobody else. Over $200 million have been spent on this initiative thus far, and it's polling at about 31%, which means smart money would be on this thing losing and potentially losing badly. And again, keep in mind, whenever you put anything on a ballot, you make yourself subject to interpretations of whether you win or whether you lose that may not have anything to do with the basis upon which it wins or loses. My gut feeling tells me that much of the opposition to 22 has nothing to do with the population of California thinking AB5 was a particularly good piece of legislation, and everything to do with the discomfort persons have of one industry spending $200 million to carve something for itself and only for itself, which would not protect anyone else who's affected by AB5. And in addition, put in a provision that means that it can only be repealed by a 7/8 vote of the legislature. So you put things like in there and you make yourself subject. Nonetheless, if it does finish with 31 or 32% approval, you can guarantee that the Labor Federation and the proponents of AB5 will tout that, will do a little victory dance as if the state of California is overwhelmingly for AB5. And I think nothing could be further from the truth. And one of the reasons that we shared with you an LA Times editorial, which ironically was a no position on it, but the position was irrelevant. The issues that basically what the LA Times said was a pox on both your houses. We needed to take a serious look at it. Prop 22 was not a serious look unless they were counseling no, but that's not the way this is going to be characterized probably when it fails. On to a federal issue. As much time as I spent saying that federal issues never affect us, sometimes they do. The Golf Course Superintendents Association, many of the chapters are today putting out an alert that Kevin Fitzgerald and I were made aware of last week, mostly by accident. We were on the phone with Hava McKeel, who's the National Director of Governmental Affairs for the GCSA. And that conversation was really about glyphosate and coordinating some national efforts with some of the efforts that we've done in California. And that's when she shared with us a bill that was filed in the Senate by Senator Udall of New Mexico and in the House of Representatives by Congressman Neguse of Denver area in Colorado, that would, in essence, eviscerate the long-time national bill that regulates pesticides and insecticides, et cetera. And the acronym is FIFRA, and that stands for the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. Now you know why we use the acronym instead of going through all of that, because that's quite a tongue twister. What this bill would do, it would put an immediate ban on certain substances, which would really badly harm American agriculture. It wouldn't really affect the golf industry particularly, although I'm told in the southeast part of the country there would be some impact, but not necessarily in the far west where we are. It would, I think the troublesome parts of it is it would eliminate this federal preemption. Again, less important in California because California's found a lot of ways to get around that, but extremely impactful for the other 49 states, which would mean that no localities would be free to do whatever they want in terms of regulating these things, which means in a state like California, you could end up with a huge patchwork of differences between cities, counties, et cetera, which would be very problematic for the golf industry. And then there's a provision in there that would, in essence, require that any substance banned anywhere in Canada or the European Union would be an automatic ban in the United States. I think you can see the problem with that, particularly with the European Union has done some strange things over the years that often they have later rejected subsequently, but so that'd be a problem. But let me put a little bit of perspective on this. The bill is, of course, the whole idea is completely dead on arrival. It cannot possibly pass the Senate, and should somehow, miracle of miracles, it pass the Senate, it would be vetoed quickly by President Trump. But we have an election which is why it is so extreme. It amounts more to what I would call posturing by those who might be on the fringe of an issue or in an extreme, and that's very comforting. Always keep in mind with legislation, it's important to really study it and determine to the degree to which it's merely posturing for the folks back home, it's establishing a position, or it's something that's extremely serious. However, if the 2020 election goes as most of us would expect, which would be Joseph Biden becoming president of the United States, and highly likely that the United States Senate would flip from Republican control to Democratic control, and New York Senator Chuck Schumer would be the majority leader, and the Democratic Party would control all the organs of government. Does that mean that this bill would automatically go through? And my answer would be no, because in order for the Senate to flip, certain states which have heavy agricultural components like Colorado and Arizona, which are almost sure to flip from Republican to Democrat, and even Iowa, which is probably necessary to get all 4 of those seats the Democrats would need. That's a very agricultural state, not to mention there are congressional districts all over the United States with substantial agricultural interest. But these 2 bills, Senate Bill 4406 and House Resolution 7940, indicates a direction that the American government would be going in based upon these election results. And there would be a number of compromises. My guess is that preemption would not be totally eliminated, and we would not have a provision that would put us at the mercy of whatever the European Union or Canada does. But you would definitely see moves in this direction. And I raise this point because I want to indicate that November 3rd is impactful on a lot of levels. We've talked mostly on the impacts in California, but there's an effect nationally. And of course, there's a whole political zeitgeist and a whole shift in attitudes and shifts in perspectives. And that's extraordinarily important for California because it will probably underscore on a national level those things that we've already come to terms with here in California. Final point on those great numbers that we're all enamored with, shocked by, pleasantly surprised by. 26% is an incredible increase, and that's 26% over this period last year, which was a little bit better than the year before, and that becomes very significant as these gains are multiplied over the course of time. We know we're not going to keep all of that, but a substantial portion of that will be harvested, I would hope, and retained by the golf industry. Certainly that's our responsibility, and certainly everyone takes that very, very seriously. But there's some negatives in there as well. Going back to the federal government, I was wrong. I thought that because the need was so acute and it made so much political sense for everybody, that Congress would come up with an additional round of federal relief. The House of Representatives passed a HEROES Act back in May. The Senate never sat down seriously to deal with it. And however, the White House has tried to deal with it, but it would appear that we will get through this election without another relief bill. And whether a relief bill is possible in a lame duck session with a lame duck president and potentially a lame duck Senate is very problematic. So we probably wait till next year, which means that any hope for relief to the states, the counties, and the cities of this country is off the table. Small businesses receive relief. A lot of individuals receive relief. It's debatable whether that relief was sufficient. Some say yes, some say no, more say no. But it's clear that local governments and state governments had to incur an incredible amount of additional costs to deal with COVID-19. At the same time, the tax base was eviscerated, and states, cities, counties have to balance their budgets. The United States government does not have to balance its budget. So it can issue $3 and $4 and $5 and $6 trillion worth of relief and not necessarily have to come up with the money to pay for it, simply incur debt at longer term. And they cannot, which means that 20% of the golf, over 20%, 22% of the golf courses owned in this state are owned by those. Those are the owners, municipal governments. More than 2 out of 5 rounds that are played in this state are played on that ownership class. And about 90% of all of our growth programs occur there, which means two things are not only likely to happen, but already beginning to happen. We're lucky in California that we have a lot of very successful municipal systems. Successful meaning they make net revenues for their owners. You'll be fooling yourself to think that they won't begin drain as the numbers go up. They'll drain every dollar they can, because the alternative is to lay off employees, and worse, because most of the municipal systems are attached to parks departments. That means close programs that largely affect kids here. So they're not likely to do that. And then those that are still in outlying areas, that some will go from marginal to maybe hanging on based upon the increase in play, but there will still be some that are marginal, that are simply not revenue productive. And those persons on the call were part of the golf industry know that the little 3-pars and the driving range facilities and a lot of the developmental facilities have never been that productive financially. And so faced with extreme distress financially and fiscally, they may bite the dust, and thus the industry's ability to harvest that incredible bounty is going to be badly damaged. My saying is it's hard to grow a game when you lose the places to grow it, and particularly lose those places that the game has identified as those communities to which we most want to introduce the game in California. And those are also going to be the places that have supported these developmental facilities for many, many years, that are going to be on the chopping block in this new environment. So I guess that's my way of saying that, there's a downside to every upside and an upside to every downside, and that would be one of them. So I've been personally distressed by the lack of attention to this particular aspect of COVID-19 and this particular aspect of the relief bills coming out of Congress. We've paid great attention to the C6s, to the C7s, to the small businesses, we should be grateful we were in the EIDL portion of the CARES Act, because once upon a time the golf industry was categorically excluded from those kinds of disaster relief benefit programs, and we weren't this time. That's a sign of progress. But we haven't made sufficient progress to ever come to terms with the fact that this is an industry that is has been dependent for more than 100 years on the public sector, and particularly dependent upon it in those areas in which we have identified as the incubator of growth moving towards the future. Well, I wasn't as brief as I promised to be, but those of you who've listened to this probably knew that wouldn't be the case. But with that, I will turn it back and make myself subject on the spot to any questions that I may have arisen out of all that rat-a-tat on various subjects. So again, thanks for inviting me, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Craig. And, some very complex issues at certainly a very complex time. And Craig, we're less than 2 weeks away from our election for a national president. And you mentioned, the lame duck scenario that comes as part of that, and that part of the timing of that. But, fortunately now many counties are going from purple to red. Some have even gone from red to orange and moving up, which is great. But is there an opportunity, should that turn, is there an opportunity for emergency legislation that would somehow provide the next stimulus package or part of the next stimulus package, or is it completely off the table, as you mentioned earlier?
Well, keeping in mind that I was wrong in assuming that when something is so compelling that even our sclerotic and divided political system would address it, it didn't. So I think that, again, you're asking me to speculate. So my speculation would be that I'll probably be wrong again. I hope I am wrong, but I'll probably be wrong again. I just don't see it. I mean, my sense is unless something changes dramatically in the next 11 days, you're looking at two lame duck institutions. And I just think those who are going, I just think that those who are going to be assuming all the organs of government come January 20th, or actually before that in the Congress, are going to feel like they should be calling all the shots and are not going to be in a mood to compromise with with those who lost the election. And consequently, we'll be waiting until then. And again, that since the budgets for municipalities and states are largely fixed, and at least in this state in California, a lot of cities had two budgets, one predicated on not getting relief and one predicating on getting relief. And they have now moved to the more dire budgets, and they're beginning to execute those. There's still a few holding out. So I don't see much possibility of that. But I want to emphasize, I was wrong the other way, so maybe I'll be wrong this way. And so you never know.
Okay, thank you, Craig. And I don't see from where I'm sitting any questions. Nikki, Bryce, do you see any or fielding any?
That's correct, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nikki. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so again, thank you for joining us, and time to start our wrap up here for this session on Friday, the 23rd. Some notes we'll make as we go along, but first, perhaps some closing remarks from our Northern California President, Dee Dee Moriarty. Dee Dee?
No, thanks, Len, and Tom and Len, as always, thanks for putting together a great program, and thanks for everybody that logs in. That was great information for all. Craig, really good session today, and although I think you're right about the relief, probably I'll hope to hear something else, but I got a feeling you're right on with it. So everybody keep making golf safe, and enjoy your jobs, and keep going. Thanks, Len.
Okay, thanks, Dee Dee. And again, to our Southern California team, Tom?
Yeah, thanks, Len. And Mr. Latendre, a few closing remarks.
I just echo the same sentiment as Dee Dee. It's always nice that we're all in this together, and thank you for the updates and our great new partnership. And Craig, thank you for everything. Len, Tom, you guys are the best. So thank you, and great being with everybody today.
Yeah, thanks, Tony, and thanks to everybody, our guests as usual. Len, it's great working with you, and Nikki and Bryce and Caitlin and Tyler and Kevin Fitzgerald, everybody that contributes to these Friday chats. One thing, and Len, I guess I can, hope you don't mind. November 6th, next week is our PGA of America annual meeting, October 29th. Those of you who are interested in attending, take a look at your PGA news or pga.org for the link to join the annual meeting, where we will elect a new secretary. John Lindert will move to vice president, and Jim Richardson will move to president. And speaking of that, on November 6th, we're very fortunate that Mr. Richardson, President Richardson, will join us on the 6th. And as the newly installed president of the PGA of America, so we're excited about that. And again, appreciate everybody. And Len, thanks again for everything.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Thanks for getting in touch with President Richardson to arrange that. So that's really tremendous, and we really look forward to that session on the 6th. So also good luck to our candidates next week. Tom Henderson from the Mets section, and Kelly Williams, and Dave Schneider and Don Ray. Congratulations to them for raising their hand and putting themselves out there. We wish them the best of luck. And as Tom mentioned, next Thursday, the 29th, PGA.org will start about 11 o'clock Pacific time. A couple other things to wrap. Don't forget the Masters. The Masters is yet to come. We're just about 2.5 weeks away on November 12th. And then the last commercial for all our NCPGA members. Please keep in mind the ballot for our new board members for the term 2021 to 2023 will be out today. So please be on the lookout again for Northern California PGA members for our board of directors election ballot is out today. And everyone continue to be safe, continue to enjoy your friends and family, and as we work through this together, which is our strength. And thank you very much. We'll stay in touch and see you on the 6th of November.
Thanks, everybody.